بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وآله وأصحابه وأزواجه وذريته أجمعين. اللهم ربنا أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه. اللهم أرنا حق الأشياء كما هي ربنا زدنا علما وعملا وإخلاصا يا رب العالمين. وصلي وسلم. اللهم انصر إخواننا المجاهدين في مشارق الأرض ومغاربها. اللهم انصرهم على عدوك وعدوهم إنك على كل شيء قدير. صلى وسلم على سيدنا محمد وآله وصحبه وأزواجه وذريته أجمعين. Okay, so we've been talking about this existence, and last time we talked about the relationship between the concept of existence and the concept of being, and the three senses of the concept of being. But he goes on to say that in traditional metaphysics, when we ask about what is being, it asks about being in the sense of existence. But now he comes to existence. So far, he hasn't really defined or tried to define or try to even give a sense of what existence is. But now he's going to do it, I think. At least try to do it. So we can begin with the claim that things which exist are those that can bring about effects in the behavior of other things, and can in turn be affected by them. Let's look at this a bit. Obviously, it's not easy to define it, something like existence, which is related to almost anything you are going to talk about. So when you talk about, let me write it down first. Oh, probably not. So we can begin with the claim that things. So when you talk about things, and then existence, in a sense, it means you're talking about existence as some sort of addition to thing. But we can talk about, presumably anyway, we can talk about things in abstraction only because they exist first, and we have known things which exist. So when we talk about things, a sense of existence is already there. So, but this is not to criticize this illustration or this explanation or this definition of what existence is, but just to point out how difficult it is to get handle around the concept of existence. And that's why many Muslim philosophers, logicians, and mutakallimin claim that it is a concept which, existing, it is hard to even conceptualize existence, let alone define it. So things, we can begin with the claim that things which exist are those which can bring about effects. So he's dividing things into two types, which can be cause and which can't be cause. But that's just another way of saying that things which we have known in our sense experience are the prototypes of things which exist. So it's basically just rephrasing what we experience as the explanation of what existence is, really. Which is not to criticize this, but just to, in a sense, just to allude to an inevitable circularity of any attempt to understand the concept of existence, but at least uh, you should be aware of this. So when he's saying that existence is, I mean, maybe he will qualify this, but we can begin with the claim that things which exist are those things. So presumably there are things which exist and which don't exist. So basically he's saying X. So there is X which exists and X which doesn't exist. So that will actually, logically speaking, make more sense. Um, and things which exist are those things which can possibly be cause of other things which also exist, other X which exist. On the other hand, those things which don't exist, let's call them Y. They are things which can't bring about other things, like Z, for example. Something like that. That's what he's saying. But this is just to sort of generalize what our immediate experience. And then he goes on to say that, however, we can also talk about the existence of fictitious entities, the entities which don't, and abstract entities. So abstract entities, and these do not seem to have such powers. No, fiction doesn't have a power. Maybe you would say that, like, depiction of fictitious entities have power, and obviously abstract entities, many philosophers have claimed powers for them. The fictitious entities are those entities which don't exist and are just the figment of our imagination. For example, a horse with wings. Abstract entities, on the other hand, are things which are not of this nature. They, in some sense, they exist, but different from the way in which non-abstract things or concrete things exist. So, for example, Ali or Ahmed, they exist. A tree exists. But does the and color exist, black color? But does the humanity exist? Or color in general exists? So there are two views among philosophers. One is that these entities are just abstraction from our experience. But there are other philosophers like, and it's not just color, but, like, for example, triangle as defined by Euclid. It doesn't exist in outside world. It's just an abstract. Does triangle as defined by geometry exist or not? So mathematicians have and philosophers have different views about it. So, for example, what generally Aristotle called form, so matter and form division. Plato thought that these entities exist. In fact, they had more existence than the concrete things. On the other hand, Aristotle, for example, thought that these things exist only when they are embodied in concrete things. So form and matter exist together. So form is real, but its reality is within the thing it exists in, but probably is pure rational creatures like God are an exception because they are pure forms in a sense, but they exist without matter. So in a sense, you can say a God is an abstract entity in that sense, in Aristotle, but it exists. And this is an ongoing debate between philosophers since the beginning about nominalists who think that abstract entities don't exist. They are just the names we have given to common characteristics which we have abstracted from actually concretely existing things. On the other hand, there's philosophers who think that these abstract entities have some sort of existence. Okay, so he goes on, and those don't seem to have such power. Philosophers have disputed what existence mean in these contexts, in the context of fictitious entities and abstract entities. In fact, philosophers have disagreed on what existence mean with reference to concrete entities as well. Also, it is not clear what to say when our mind seems to be affected by things. So that's going back to his definition that if you are affected by something, then it exists. But it's not clear whether you are affected by abstract things, fictitious things, or your concrete talk about those things, or your concrete thinking about those things. In ourselves, what we are in the course of living out our possibilities. Oh, where was that? Oh yeah. So when our mind seems to be affected by things that do not exist. So when we read fictions, for example, such as by apparent objects in dreams, illusions, or delusions even. So that's even more. But dream illusions and delusions, how can one say, oh, yeah, so how can you say that what they depict doesn't exist? If that is your definition, the definition which he put before, okay. I think we'll stop here and we'll continue from here next time. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك صل وسلم على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وآله وصحبه وأزواجه وذريته أجمعين برحمتك يا